to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruits of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true the one who bows and the one who is bowed to. Offering light in the 10 directions, the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, to whom we bow in gratitude. Teaching and living the way above, in the very midst of suffering and confusion. To whom we bow in gratitude. Showing the ways fearlessly our teacher, to whom we bow in gratitude.
Dear noble community, now the monks and nuns will chant the sutta, the insight that brings us to the other shore, and we will chant in person and not listen to the recording. So for those of us, just follow and listen to the chanting. Thank you. We will begin on page 13 for those following English.
Sangha Karman procedure. Has the entire community assembled?
Yes, the entire community has assembled.
Is there harmony in the community?
Yes, there is harmony.
Is there anyone not able to be present who has asked to be represented? And have they declared themselves to have done their best to study and practice the 14 mindfulness trainings?
Yes. For Sangha service reasons, cannot be at the recitation today. They have asked Chantra Nimlung to represent them, and he declares that they declare that they have done their best to study and practice the mindfulness trainings.
Yes, Sister Chân Tinh Nghiêm and Sister Chân Trăng Mai Viên for Sangha service could not come to the recitation today. She had asked Sister Huyền Hậu to represent them, and they declared that they had done their best to study and practice the mindfulness trainings.
Yes, Brother Javier, for health reasons, cannot be at the recitation today. He has asked Brother Dipkin to represent him and declares that he has done his best to study and practice the mindfulness trainings.
What is the reason for the community gathering today?
The community gathered today to perform the Sangha Karman for recite the 14 mindfulness trainings.
Noble community, please listen. Today, the 5th of September in the year 2021, has been declared as the day to recite the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. We have gathered at the appointed time. The noble community is ready to hear and recite the mindfulness trainings in an atmosphere of harmony. Thus, the recitation can proceed. Is this statement clear and complete?
Clear and complete.
The 14 mindfulness trainings are the very essence of the Order of Interbeing. They are the torch lighting our path, the boat carrying us, the teacher guiding us. They allow us to touch the nature of interbeing in everything that is, and to see that our happiness is not separate from the happiness of others. Interbeing is not a theory. It is a reality that can be directly experienced by each of us at any moment. The 14 mindfulness trainings help us cultivate concentration and insight, which free us from fear and the illusion of a separate self. We ask the community to listen with a serene mind. Consider the mindfulness trainings as a clear mirror in which to look at ourselves. Say yes silently every time you see that during the past month you have made an effort to study, practice, and observe the mindfulness training read. Brothers and sisters, are you ready? These are the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. The first mindfulness training, openness. Aware of the suffering created by fanaticism and intolerance, we are determined not to be idolatrous about or bound to any doctrine, theory, or ideology, even Buddhist ones. We are committed to seeing the Buddhist teachings as a guiding means that help us to learn to look deeply and develop understanding and compassion. They are not doctrines to fight, kill, or die for. We understand that fanaticism in its many forms is the result of perceiving things in a dualistic or discriminative manner. We will train ourselves to look at everything with openness and the insight of interbeing in order to transform dogmatism and violence in ourselves and in the world. This is the first mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have we made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month?
The second mindfulness training, non-attachment to views. Aware of the suffering created by attachment to views and wrong perceptions, we are determined to avoid being narrow-minded and bound to present views. We are committed to learning and practicing non-attachment from view and being open to others' insights and experiences in order to benefit from the collective wisdom. Insight is revealed through the practice of compassionate listening, deep looking, and letting go of notions rather than through the accumulation of intellectual knowledge. We are aware that the knowledge we presently possess is not changeless, absolute truth. Truth is found in life, and we will observe life within and around us in every moment, ready to learn throughout our lives. This is the second mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have we make an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month?
The third mindfulness training, freedom of thought. Aware of the suffering brought about when we impose our view on others, we are determined not to force others, even our children, by any means whatsoever, such as authority, threat, money, propaganda, or indoctrination, to adopt our views. We are committed to respecting the rights of others to be different, to choose what to believe and how to decide. We will, however, learn to help others let go of and transform narrowness through loving speech and compassionate dialogue. This is the third mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have we made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month?
The fourth mindfulness training, awareness of suffering. Aware that looking deeply at our own suffering can help us cultivate understanding and compassion, we are determined to come home to ourselves, to recognize, accept, embrace, and listen to our own suffering with the energy of mindfulness. We will do our best not to run away from our own suffering or cover it up to consumption, but practice conscious breathing and walking to look deeply into the roots of our suffering. We know that we can only find the path leading to the transformation of suffering when we understand the roots of suffering. Once we have understood our own suffering, we will be able to understand the suffering of others. We are committed to finding ways, including personal contact and using the telephone, electronics, audio, visual, and other means to be with those who suffer, so we can help them transform their suffering into compassion, peace, and joy. This is the fourth mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have we make an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month?
The fifth mindfulness training, compassionate, healthy living. Aware that happiness is rooted in peace, solidity, freedom, and compassion. We are determined not to accumulate wealth while millions are hungry and dying, nor to take as the aim of our life fame, profit, wealth, or sensual pleasure, which can bring much suffering and despair. We will practice looking deeply into how we nourish our body and mind with edible foods, sense impressions, volition, and consciousness. We are committed not to gamble or to use alcohol, drugs, or any other products that bring toxins into our own and the collective body and consciousness, such as certain websites, electronic games, TV programs, films, magazines, books, and conversations. We will consume in a way that preserves compassion, peace, joy, well-being in our bodies and consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of our families, our society, and the earth. This is the fifth mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have we made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month?
The sixth mindfulness training, taking care of anger. Aware that anger blocks communication and creates suffering, we are committed to taking care of our energy of anger when it arises, to recognizing and transforming the seeds of anger that lie deep in our consciousness. When anger manifests, we are determined not to do or say anything, but to practice mindful breathing or mindful walking to acknowledge, embrace, and look deeply into our anger. We know that the roots of anger are not outside of ourselves, but can be found in our wrong perceptions and lack of understanding of the suffering in ourselves and in the other person. By contemplating impermanence, we will be able to look with the eyes of compassion at ourselves and those we think are the cause of our anger, and to recognize the preciousness of our relationship. We will practice right diligence in order to nourish our capacity of understanding, love, joy, and inclusiveness, gradually transforming our anger, violence, fear, and helping others do the same. This is the sixth mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have we make an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month?
The seventh mindfulness training, dwelling happily in the present moment. Aware that life is available only in the present moment, we are committed to training ourselves to live deeply each moment of our daily life. We will try not to lose ourselves in dispersion or be carried away by regrets about the past, worries about the future, or cravings, anger, or jealousy in the present. We will practice mindful breathing to be aware of what is happening in the here and now. We are determined to learn the art of mindful living by touching the wondrous, refreshing, and healing elements that are inside and around us in all situations. In this way, we will be able to cultivate seeds of joy, peace, love, and understanding in ourselves, thus facilitating the work of transformation and healing in our consciousness. We are aware that happiness depends primarily on our mental attitude and not on external conditions, and that we can live happily in the present moment simply by remembering that we already have more than enough conditions to be happy. This is the seventh mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have we made an effort to study, to practice, and observe it during the past month?
The eighth mindfulness training, true community and communication. Aware that lack of communication always brings separation and suffering, we are committed to training ourselves in the practice of compassionate listening and loving speech, knowing that true community is rooted in inclusiveness and in the concrete practice of harmony of views, thinking, and speech. We will practice to share our understanding and experiences with members in our community in order to arrive at collective insight. We are determined to learn to listen deeply without judging or reacting, and refrain from uttering words that can create discord or cause the community to break. Whenever difficulties arise, we will remain in our Sangha and practice looking deeply into ourselves and others to recognize all the causes and conditions, including our own habit energies, that have brought about the difficulties. We will take responsibility for all the ways we may have contributed to the conflict and keep communication open. We will not behave as a victim, but be active in finding ways to reconcile and resolve all conflicts, however small. This is the eighth mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have we make an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month?
The ninth mindfulness training, truthful and loving speech. Aware that words can create happiness or suffering. We are committed to learning to speak truthfully, lovingly, and constructively. We will only use words that inspire joy, confidence, and hope, as well as promote reconciliation and peace in ourselves and among people. We will speak and listen in a way that can help ourselves and others to transform suffering and see the way out of difficult situations. We are determined not to say untruthful things for the sake of personal interest or to impress people, nor to utter words that might cause division or hatred. We will protect the joy and harmony of our Sangha by refraining from speaking about the faults of another person in their absence, and always ask ourselves whether our perceptions are correct. We will speak only with the intention to understand and help transform the situation. We will not spread rumors, nor criticize or condemn things of which we are not sure. We will do our best to speak out about situations of injustice, even when doing so may make difficulties for us or threaten our safety. This is the 9th mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have we made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month?
The 10th mindfulness training, protecting and nourishing the Sangha. Aware that the essence and aim of a Sangha is the practice of understanding and compassion, we are determined not to use the Buddhist community for personal power or profit, or transform our community into a political instrument. However, as members of a spiritual community, we should take a clear stand against oppression and injustice. We should strive to change the situation without taking sides in a conflict. We are committed to looking with the eyes of interbeing and learning to see ourselves and others as cells in one Sangha body, a true cell in the Sangha body, generating mindfulness, concentration, and insight to nourish ourselves and the whole community. Each of us is at the same time a cell in the Buddha body. We will actively build brotherhood and sisterhood, flow as a river, and practice to develop the three real powers: love, understanding, and cutting through afflictions, to realize collective awakening. This is the 10th mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have we made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month?
The 11th mindfulness training, right livelihood. Aware that great violence and injustice have been done to our environment and society, we are committed not to live with a vocation that is harmful to humans or nature. We will do our best to select a livelihood that contributes to the well-being of all species on earth and helps realize our ideal of understanding and compassion. Aware of economic, political, and social realities around the world, as well as our interrelationship with the ecosystem, we are determined to behave responsibly as consumers and citizens. We will not invest in or purchase from companies that contribute to the depletion of natural resources, harm the earth, and deprive others of their chance to live. This is the 11th mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have we made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month?
The 12th Mindfulness Training, Reference for Life. Aware that much suffering is caused by war and conflict, we are determined to cultivate non-violence, compassion, and the insight of interbeing in our daily lives, and promote peace, education, mindful meditation, and reconciliation within families, community, ethnic and religious groups, nations, and in the world. We are committed not to kill and not to let others kill. We will not support any act of killing in the world, in our thinking, or in our way of life. We will diligently practice deep looking with our Sangha to discover better ways to protect life, prevent war, and build peace. This is the 12th mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have we make an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month?
The 13th mindfulness training, generosity. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, we are committed to cultivating generosity in our way of thinking, speaking, and acting. We will learn better ways to work for the well-being of people, animals, plants, and minerals, and practice generosity by sharing our time, energy, and material resources with those who are in need. We are determined not to steal and not to possess anything that should belong to others. We will respect the property of others, but will try to prevent others from profiting from human suffering or the suffering of other beings. This is the 13th mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have we made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month?
The 14th Mindfulness Training, Right Conduct. For lay members, aware that sexual desire is not love and that sexual relations motivated by craving cannot dissipate the feeling of loneliness but will create more suffering, frustration, and isolation. We are determined not to engage in sexual relations without mutual understanding, love, and a deep long-term commitment make known to our families and friends. Seeing that the body and mind are one, we are committed to learning appropriate ways to take care of our sexual energy and to cultivate loving kindness. Compassion, joy, and inclusiveness for our own happiness and the happiness of others. We must be aware of future suffering that may be caused by sexual relations. We know that to preserve the happiness of ourselves and others, we must respect the rights and commitments of ourselves and others. We will do everything in our power to protect children from sexual abuse and to protect couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. We will treat our bodies with compassion and respect. We are determined to look deeply into the four nutriments and learn ways to preserve and channel our vital energy, sexual, breath, spirit, for the realization of our Bodhisattva ideal. We will be fully aware of the responsibility of bringing new lives into the world and will meditate upon their future environment. For monastic members, aware that the deep aspiration of a monk or a nun can only be realized when he or she wholly leaves behind the bonds of sensual love. We are committed to practicing chastity and to helping others to protect themselves. We are aware that loneliness and suffering cannot be alleviated through a sexual relationship, but through practicing loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness. We know that a sexual relationship will destroy monastic life, will prevent us from realizing our ideal of serving living beings, and will harm others. We will learn appropriate ways to take care of sexual energy. We are determined not to suppress or mistreat our body or to look upon our body as only an instrument, but to learn to handle our body with compassion and respect. We are determined to look deeply into the four nutriments in order to preserve and channel our vital energies, sexual, breath, spirit, for the realization of our Bodhisattva ideal. This is the 14th mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Here we make an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month.
Brothers and sisters, we have recited the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing as the community has requested. We thank you for helping us to do it serenely.
Give Christ to man. Because we're already 10 minutes late.